Welcome to another edition of the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. I'm Donald Grodoff, family coach with FamilyOCD.com and FocusedHealthyFamily.com. In the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast series, I delve into the hidden characteristics of OCD, anxiety, and anxiety disorders, the things that most people don't see, that are behind closed doors and shut within the mind about anxiety. My goal with these podcasts is to bring about awareness of obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. Understand that I am not a doctor, therapist, or counselor, and the content, information, resources, and ideas that are talked about and brought up here in these podcasts are things that I have used, discovered, or have been recommended to me, and I always recommend to seek additional professional help in finding solutions for yourself. Thank you for listening and enjoy the podcast. This podcast was recorded February 25th, 2020. This is podcast number 39, OCD Comebacks. And today, is a little bit of a rant on my part. It's really talking about OCD and how it just keeps resurfacing. When you think you got it down, when you think you've got it overcome, I guess, it finds its way back to haunt you again in some other format. And I thought a lot about this because I was on some different groups today online, and hear the frustration in people's their voices, in their messages of how strong the OCD is and how it just when you think it's gotten better, it comes back with a vengeance almost. One part of that I can understand in a way because I know from the work I do in helping people to change mindset. You know, I work as an EFT practitioner. I also work with a product called the Alpha Stim, which are all, both of those different modalities are made to be able to repath the brain, to reset the mindset, to get it away from the negative thought. And one of the things I've learned through those processes, through the EFT and through the Alpha Stim is a device you clip to the ears and it sends in electrical frequencies, not a shock treatment, just a real calm, really beautiful method. What I've learned from that, and like I say, from EFT, especially in things like PTSD and the heavy anxiety issues, including OCD. Now, this is coming from a non-scientific basis. This is coming from my experience with, hundreds of clients now, that when we have been in a traumatic place for a long time, or when it's a heavy traumatic spot, things that are trying to change that, things that come into the mind that are softer, gentler, better, can be resisted from the mind because it's so strong. The pathways we've built for those are so strong that trying to fight it takes time, effort, and work. But eventually it can break that pattern. I've, like I said, in the work I've done, I've seen it happen multiple times, many, many times, where it just takes time and then you'll see a breakthrough and the mindset slowly gets to a place of changing the way it's set up. Those pathways that have been set up, again, are very strong and they resist and fight back. It's kind of like they say, no way are you going to destroy me. No way am I going to die easily, But yet they can die with persistence, constant. When I do, like with the Alpha Stim, I tell people, and I do it for myself, I try to do it every day. Because the more I can do it, the more it breaks that resistance down. And so I kind of see the same pattern with OCD in a way. That I know too is a strong loop that it builds within your brain. It loops to different parts of your brain and just keeps going around and around that part. And it is very strong. Anybody that has OCD or is taken care of, like myself, two people with OCD, it is very strong and very vengeful, I would say. I tend to, in my mind, and when I work with my own child, is to make it almost like it's a being, and a lot of times I'll call it a bully, but I almost make it like it's a real physical being in a way, because the way it acts sometimes, it almost seems like it's human. Or maybe we shouldn't call it human, because I have seen it now, oh my gosh, when we first went through it with my daughter, we seemed to clear one trigger or one compulsion, and seemed like OCD, we've kind of got a little control on OCD. It seemed to come back with almost a vengeance, like, oh, hell no, you're not going to get rid of me this fast and this easy. So here I am with this new compulsion. Now, it could be one other thing I have seen in the work I do, especially with pain. Pain's really interesting when it comes to this, but I believe emotions can follow the same way. I find that pains tend to almost kind of like stack within you, or within me, within anybody. They kind of stack on top of each other. The one that's most painful, gets the most attention, is the one on top. And it's taking the attention because it is the most painful. And so if you can knock out that pain, if you can reduce that pain, the next one just rises up, says, my turn. It's wild to watch. I've been working with people before, and EFT, the tapping process I do, will work on pain, because I believe a good majority, probably 85 to 90% of pain or more, has an emotional backing to it. And so we're working on stuff. We work on the pain, and we get one to go away, and the next thing I know, or if I have them on the alpha stim, the alpha stim also works on pain. It'll reduce one pain, and I just had this happen day before yesterday with a patient that was they were on the alpha stim, and I think their big complaint was neck pain and tension in their neck, and it was really overwhelming, and they really didn't come up with anything else. And we actually saw the pain and the tension go down. I think it almost went to zero. And she looked at me, she goes, yeah, but now my knee really hurts. And so, we had to work on the knee. It's just, I see it as almost like a layered effect, whatever's, gaining the most attention. So I look at OCD and I think, good gosh, I think some of that has some truth in it, because, like I said, when we first went through it with my daughter, we would just seem to get past one, and she seemed to be calm, and it was like, oh yeah, I think we're getting somewhere here. OCD would flare back up, or if she was sick, or if there was something else traumatic happen, it would flare up too. But like I said, it seemed to be a matter of OCD coming back and saying, heck no, you're not going to get rid of me this fast or this easy. So here's a new thing to deal with. And now, what's even, what we've seen even worse about the comeback is my second child now is going through OCD. And the same thing happens with my second child. Same resurgence. Get past one and a new thing comes up. I don't know if they're stacked in there, or if if it really is a beast, a bully. It is a bully. I shouldn't say whether it is or not, but whether it is some kind of almost like a real human type aspect that it does that it pulls up more stuff. But it is so frustrating. It is so painful to watch a child go through it over and over and over again. And to see it, what's toughest for parents, friends, whatever, is to be able to know how, and I'm going to say it this way, how ridiculous that compulsion is when they see it as totally legit, or totally that they have to do it because it's too painful not to do it. And it does bring me comfort, only for a while, but it will, it can bring down the compulsion. So I don't know if anybody else out there, I would love to hear stories from anybody else that has seen this come over and over again. And here again, with the first child, it was one issue, which we were able to do the ERP therapy, and the ERP therapy took a long time, but it really actually did a lot of good. And so when the second one came along, the very first things that happened with the second one were similar to what happened, were kind of the same thing that happened with my first one. And it was about hand washing and dirtiness and stuff like that. But it quickly, because when it happened, we both, I think myself and my wife kind of said, well, we can, we know what to do. We can, let's get on this right away and let's get the ERP going. But it quickly morphed into something completely different, and had to do more with the bathroom, the toilet, going to the bathroom, things like that, which then it became a whole new learning plan for us, because it was about pooping and peeing, and how do you regulate that for someone else? How do you tell them that you stop now, you start now, you're good enough or whatever? That's really something that they have to be able to tell through the body. So the second time around was almost like starting over again in a way. But at least when we were in the first round, we didn't know where to go to. We didn't know where to turn. We didn't even really know what was going on. And so we had to find the solutions. We didn't find ERP until probably a year or so into it. We didn't know who to turn to. So that's why we're doing the things we're doing now in our practice to try to help other families to get through it. So if you are going through this and you see this resurgence, that you clear one compulsion and a totally different one comes up, understand that, one, that's fairly normal. Two, that it's something that everybody goes through, I believe. And to know that you're not alone in it. And it will get better. Even in our second trial run here, I guess, against the bully, we, I think, are doing better, and things are getting better, but it's a up and down roller coaster too. That's the other thing about it. You have some good nights, and then you have some again bad nights where, again, I think it's a matter of it. What I see in working with my own kids and with others is that when you have a good day, like my second child, I guess it was about 4 days ago, she had I think 2 really good days where she was making some goals. She was doing things and withstanding the anxiety behind it. And then it seemed like OCD kind of flared back up with a little bit of vengeance, almost like, hey, you did too good. I can't let you keep going down this path. You're going to end me. I need to come back. And luckily, I think my second child is now seeing some of that, understanding that that will happen when you have a good day or a couple of good days, that OCD is going to try its best to come back. I had somebody talk about anxiety and in that it's kind of like a rubber band effect in a way. We look at our nervous system. There's a sympathetic system and a parasympathetic system. And our sympathetic system is what gets us up into the anxiety place. The sympathetic system is there, again, it's working with our fight or flight, which is fight or flight is a good thing. It's what we need. We also can, sometimes need to go into sympathetic to get into that energy place, to get it hypered up, to be able to finish a project, things like that. So it's not a bad thing to be sympathetic. But what happens in anxiety, OCD's, I think, same thing, is we tend to live more on that sympathetic side, and it's raised up and it doesn't want to come down. And so we really want to get ourselves back into a balance, pull that parasympathetic side back over, the calming side, the serotonin side, And so it's kind of like our brain has a rubber band effect to it. When we're really into the sympathetic side and we're pulling ourselves back over to the parasympathetic side, it wants to snap back. And so we have to be consistent, persistent in doing the things that keep it pulled over there, that start allowing it not to need to snap back, not to want to snap back. That's where in ERP, where you hold with the anxiety, stick with it, stay with it, recognize it, accept it, and stay with it. The more you do that, the more that rubber band doesn't want to snap back. And so you want to keep the rubber band at a balance between the two sides. So again, I wanted to kind of go through this because I saw the frustration in so many people's but their post and things this morning, looking through Facebook and some other groups, that I see the frustration and how powerful OCD is. Or how, I should say, really, how powerful OCD tends to appear. Because it is a mind game. And so it is really about, we are, as humans, more powerful than it. But it convinces us, because it comes on so strong, that we're not. And we have to just get back to convincing ourselves that we are, and take back from the bully. It takes time. The other thing I like to always have people to understand, that ERP therapy takes time and effort. It's that rubber band pullover that we're trying to do to bring it back over to a more balanced mindset. And so think about the rubber band. If you want it not to snap back, then you're going to have to hold on to it and stay with it, so that you can see that the anxiety is not going to last forever. And even if it comes back, to be able to remind yourself, that's just typically what OCD will do when I've done a good day's therapy. And to know that just keep fighting, keep resisting it, and the bully will shrink. That's the neat thing about it. I've seen it with my first child, and we are hopefully working towards that with our second child and with my clients, to help them to see that first you got to really accept the thoughts in order to stay with it, hold the anxiety, so that the mind can see that the anxiety is not going to last forever. That rubber band doesn't have to snap back. So I hope this has helped. If you have seen this in your own life, I would love the stories. I would love anybody that would want to share their story. How did it fight back? How did OCD come back at you? Did you have a good day and then it fought back? Did it find a way to resurge itself when you were sick? I would love the stories of that, and if you've overcome it that way. Now, it's going to say at the end of this podcast, I give you this information again, but I'm really asking for feedback on what do you think of this podcast, first off. I would love to get comments because it helps me then to decide on what the next podcast will be. And I want to be able to put podcasts out there that truly help somebody, that truly make a difference. And your comments and feedbacks can really make that difference. So if you'd like to tell your story, and if you don't have to, it doesn't have to go public. But if you wouldn't mind it going public so you could help others with your story, then I'm going to ask you to tell me some of those OCD comebacks. Tell me the OCD story you've gone through, and I'd like to share it. You can go to the website www.invisiblewheelchair.com. Just invisiblewheelchair.com. And if you're listening on iTunes, I would really like to see if you could make some comments on this invisiblewheelchair.com website. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope I haven't been too much of a rant in this. I just wish to help others who are going through this to get through it. So take care. This concludes this podcast. We really would appreciate your comments. Simply leave a comment at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. There, you're able to submit a comment that will help us determine future podcasts. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email don@invisiblewheelchair.com. Remember, there is a corresponding tapping recording for each of the podcasts, with the exception of the interview podcast. You can find these tapping recordings and archive past podcasts at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. Finally, there is relief for OCD, and we at FamilyOCD.com and FocusedHealthyFamily.com can help you find that relief. Again, you can contact us through those sites, FamilyOCD.com or FocusedHealthyFamily.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at InvisibleWheel1, that's the number 1, or at FamilyOCD. So thank you for listening. Keep tapping and transcending your life to new heights.